Okay, yeah, y'all, we here. Truck Like Us. I got the amazing Lateasha from LLG Transportation Consultants. What's going on, Lateasha?
Hey, how y'all doing? What's going on with you?
We good, we good. I had to get you to the show because I really appreciate what you have going on. I know you guys are a compliance company, and you're like the only compliance company I see on the internet out in the forefront, really like giving good game, good information, like breaking everything down. I don't see any other compliance company out there like that. So I just, want to congratulate you, and I'm glad to have you on the show to give us some good information.
Absolutely. And say that again. The only person you see out there on the forefront. That's
The
correct.
only.
Yes.
Yeah, 'cause
Absolutely.
I don't see nobody else like that out there. Like if they're compliance companies out there, it's like they're hiding because I don't see them out there. And then the information that you give is like real good. Like I watch some of your Instagram videos and I just jot down information on how to protect myself and my trucks too as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is the goal, is to reach the people, educate the masses.
Yeah, so I got a question for you because I was talking to a driver the other day and he was going through some experiences. So I wanted to know from you, the expert, like what is the number one mistake when a owner operator or a small carrier goes through their first audit? Like what's the number one mistake that they make?
Is not understanding what documentation needs to be provided for the audit, right? And it's like if they're not aware that it's going to happen. You'll be surprised how many people start these companies and they're not aware that an audit, especially the new entrant audit, can happen. And so when they receive it, most of them are freaking out because, anytime you hear the word audit, it's kind of like when it comes to taxes, you hear the word tax, you're like, dang,
Right.
that means I'm going to have to owe something. And so one of the biggest mistakes is the lack of knowledge that they're going to be audited, right? And so because they're not aware they're going to be audited, quite naturally, they don't have the information readily available to provide to the auditor, and they begin to like scramble, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I always try to educate everybody beyond the startup process. Like, yeah, you need your USDOT, your MC, right? But beyond that, there's other things you need to have in place to safeguard your company and to help you prepare for these audits. And so the biggest mistakes is that people are not preparing at all. They're not aware. And then beyond that, I would say it is the lack of having things like ELDs. That's like the biggest thing. Every time someone is getting audited, they don't have ELDs, electronic logging devices, right? And so they're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh man, I got one, but I wasn't using it, or it ain't right. Even yesterday, I was doing a live video for If the Audit, and that was one of the things that the woman had 7 trucks. None of the trucks were actually using their ELDs. And so,
Damn.
not none. Okay,
Damn, that's
zero.
crazy. And
And it,
they were staying local or OTR?
Oh, they over the road. And that's why I was asking, I was like, well, are you guys, ELD exempt? She's like, no, we just don't use them like they're supposed to. But she's paying $350 a month for those devices. So I told her, I was just like, that's just throwing money away. But yeah, that's one of the biggest issues, not just with an audit, but just when we're bringing on new carriers. A lot of guys and girls do not want to do anything with when it comes to those logs. They want to avoid using them altogether. But unfortunately, that's one of the main regulations that they have to abide by.
Yeah, because the logs, sometimes like drivers complain they don't get enough hours to like work. Some say, I mean, it's cool. And then some say, man, I don't get enough hours. I need more hours.
The problem is that when I hear someone has 7 trucks and these drivers are not operating on our hours of service, I've been involved in a truck accident, hit by a semi, sued and won. Right. And so a
Mm,
lot of people don't know that side of the story when it comes to me. I've been the person that will take a trucking company to to court and has won. So I know exactly what they're going to look for in these cases when it happens, right? And so I decided to get on the other side of it to help these carriers protect their investment versus being at risk, right? And so
Hmm.
when I hear 7 trucks operating without an ELD, I don't feel safe. Me as a even as a CDL holder and driver, as a regular, person in a four-wheeler,
Right.
I don't feel safe because that makes me think how many other drivers are out here operating without, within the hours of service boundaries, right? Most people, most trucking companies are not doing that. And
Hmm.
so I get that it can be a hindrance quite naturally, but at the same time, when you're talking about business, it is literally extra insurance for your company, right? And so
Right.
that's why how I try to present it to the drivers as well as to the carriers. This is an extra layer of protection for your company by making sure that these drivers are not putting your company at risk for accidents or just high CSA scores because they are operating without this electronic logging device.
Right, right. That is a big thing in the industry. A lot of people are talking about it. What else I want to know too is like some of the clients that you have dealt with in the past when they got their first audit, like what was like the wildest thing you ever heard, like for someone's like first audit, like what experience did they go through?
Well, one of the experiences was this woman got audited within 2 months of actually starting her authority, and then she
Hmm.
got placed out of service because she did not respond to the audit within a certain time frame. And so, new authority out there rolling, not aware that she was going to be audited. So when she saw it, she kind of like thought it was solicitation. And they
Mm.
shut her company down within her first 3 months of business, and she had to wait 30 days, get it reinstated, you know.
Ooh,
Um, but
damn.
that's a right. Imagine you finally get your truck on the road and then it gets put out of your whole company get placed out of service because you did not respond to an audit. But she wasn't aware, and I had never seen anybody be audited within 2 months of starting their company. It's usually like a year later, right? But no, they were on it. And so that's a example. But I seen, oh my God, so many things from falsifying the records,
Right.
you know, to people not having driver applications on file for drivers.
And
Just the
that's a
basic.
big thing too. A lot of people don't know that. Like, and you got to have like a DOT application for your company. Some people just download any kind of application.
Absolutely. Depending on if that's a CDL or non-CDL driver, there's a specific application that has to be done on the driver. And to me, that's absolutely wild because you can't go and work at McDonald's without having an application on file.
Right.
How are you going to trust somebody with a vehicle that is worth so much money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just gonna say, hey, you got your CDL, come work for me, right? And so things like that. But I think one of the biggest things is when a client is audited and they, how to say it, they are basically they don't have anything, right? And so if I'm being honest with you, audits are not hard at all. There's no secret. It's not like it's an LLG secret. Everything is on the FMCSA website. It tells you, it gives you the templates. It tells you exactly what you need to put in place to prepare for the audit,
Mm-hmm.
right? But again, it's people are not tapping into the resources and so they're not getting it. But the audits are not hard. Driver qualification files, making sure that you have your vehicle list, basic things that are really part of running a successful business. You should always have a vehicle list or driver list, pull motor vehicle reports, things of that nature. And so they're not hard. If you prepare, we get people audits done literally within 30 minutes because we already have all their stuff together. So when they get audited, all we have to do is like upload it and going on about our business. And the carriers, it makes it so much easier for them as well. So they're not hard. It's just not knowing that it's going to happen and not being prepared.
Right. And I heard you say before, on your website, you have a link where you can click and then it gives you all the list of the documents that you need and what you need to say for the first audit. Correct?
Well, we used to have that during that time frame, a free resource list. we used to have tons of free resources, and so we don't actually have it on our website, but we do have a free trucking resource group for truck drivers and for motor carriers. And so as long as they have a CDL or they have a MC number or USDOT number, they can get inside of that group, and inside of that group is where they're able to ask questions and things like that, and where we also have some of those resources available for them in there as well. But yeah, we do have different checklists, like the motor carrier startup checklist, like you said, the DOT audit prep checklist. And we, of course, I'm all about education. So we also have educational courses to go along with those processes, right? So we walk you through step by step what you have to do if you get audited, how to submit the documentation, what documentation they're going to be looking for, what time records and things like that they're going to be looking for as well. So we really break down that audit step by step for people.
And what I've been hearing too, like some companies, like you said before, your client was audited in the first 2 months. I even heard a story where I think someone got audited even earlier than that, like the first month or the first week that the everything was going through. Like, why you think like the DOT is like doing it sooner now?
Well, the reality is that it's always supposed to happen within like your first 12 months, but
Mhm.
due to the volume of how many carriers came into the industry, probably about 2019 to 2023, 2024, there were so many carriers. These audits used to occur on site. Because of the pandemic, they went to off site, doing it online, right? Uploading the documents and stuff online. And
Hmm.
so we just had so many carriers coming into the industry, so that it extended that process to where they kind of got behind in the process of doing the audits. And now, post COVID, they're back in the offices, right? Nobody is at home doing these audits from their computers and stuff anymore. Everybody's back in the offices. And so they got more manpower to deal with the capacity of how many trucks and stuff have entered the industry. And so you're seeing those audits happen a little bit sooner after those authorities are getting activated. Keep in mind, this is like a interview of your company. It's really like a onboarding of your company. If you
Hmm.
have this audit in place, if they do it your first 2 months and you get audited and you have that stuff in place, that stuff should be in place, and it should really help you to avoid any other unnecessary audits, as well as unnecessary safety violations and citations, if you have these things in place. So it's really like an onboarding. It's actually better to go ahead and be audited when you first start your company compared to later down the line, because there could be a lot of mistakes in a lot of things, like missing logs or no
Right.
ELDs, that now can cause you to be penalized. But
Hmm.
those first 2 months, you probably haven't even ran a lot of loads. You still got your paperwork kind of organized. It's easier for them to go ahead and pass the audits at that time. But to
Right.
answer your original question, a lot of the times audits, those type of audits can be triggered because a person who has started the company could have also had another company that was an imminent hazard or was already on the DOT radar, right? And so a lot of people, when they mess up their CSA scores, they get to a point where they say, man, I can't get no loads, my insurance company trying to charge me so much money, I'm just going to start over with a different company and just start fresh. Well, when they do that, your information is still going into that system, right? So the FMCSA is able to connect the dots and say, hey, this is Walter. Walter had this company over here before too, and he
Ooh,
had a high
so they're
CSA.
watching, they keep in contract to see if you. Cause I'm pretty sure they know people will open up, have two MCs or two DOTs now.
Absolutely. Everything is electronic, right? So when you're putting your, a prime example is I think the video is actually on our YouTube channel, but there was a company down in Houston, Texas area, where this guy had one trucking company, and I'm talking about everything was illegal, from illegal plates to, like, some drivers. I mean, everything was illegal. So when they put that company out as an imminent hazard, which means that he could not ever own a trucking company again because he posed a threat to the safety of the general public. At the same time that he started getting audited, he went and got and applied for a new authority. They waited and allowed him to activate that authority and do everything. And 30 days later, they shut that company down too.
Mm.
Right. And so it could be those instances where that is going on. Somebody is attached to an authority that is already have a high CSA score. Now you're trying to start a new one. And so you're on their radar and they're trying to catch you beforehand to make sure that you do this company the right way.
And you know what's crazy too? I spoke to drivers who told me they never got audited before. And I'm asking them, I said, yo, I know they normally do it in 12 months. And I spoke to somebody from Georgia. He said, nah, they never audit me. I said, wow, that's crazy. Is that, or like, how is that?
He's probably lying. That joker probably didn't even know that he got audited,
Yeah.
right? The
So
reality
that's
is
impossible. That's impossible. Everyone
oh,
is mandatory, right?
if they are crossing state lines and they have an MC number,
Yeah.
they are going to be audited, right? If they are actually in the new entrant audit program at that time, as soon as that authority go active, if you log into their portal and you see, it'll say that that person is currently in the new entrant audit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, I'm sorry, the new entrant period, meaning that they're within their first 12 months. They're in their probation period on the job, right? So
Mm-hmm.
everybody who has an MC number or operating authority will be audited. Now, if they're staying within their state lines, they're not going to be audited. So if they're intrastate commerce, they're not going to be audited because they're list of a risk by staying within their state lines versus being over the road.
Okay, yeah, because I was like, that's kind of crazy. He said he never been audited before. That was wild. But what else I want to know too? Someone who has like a bad safety score, CSA score, like how many like DOT inspections they need to pass? Is like, is there a certain number, or one is good or two is good, and like how long does it take for them to bring that score back down?
That's a great question. So when you approach that, right, it's the same way when we were in school. You had an average, right? So let's say we're in a math class, we had an average. They take all of our grades and they average them up, right? And so they're going to divide those scores by how many, let's say we have 6 grades, right? And they range anywhere between a 90 to a 100. They're going to add those numbers up, divide them, and we're going to get the average of what your grade is for that class, right? It's the same thing when it comes to your DOT safety score, your CSA score.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to add up those violations, I'm sorry, those out of service violations and the percentage of, they're looking at it like this: based on, if he has 7 roadside inspections and he has 45% out of service rate for his vehicle, the way that you want to read that is 45% of the time that he has been inspected, his vehicle was placed out of service. There was something that was placed out of service, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how would you, in this case, you want to get that down to 0% of the times that he was inspected, he wasn't placed out of service, right? In order to do that, you have to get a good safety inspection that doesn't take points away from you, right? And that's going to reduce your safety score. So if somebody has a high CSA score, remind you, these things, these reports, these violations are going to stay on there for 24 months. That's 2 years. So
Mm-hmm.
they have to get more past inspections so that number is being averaged out a little bit better and it constantly begins to drop. One of the things that people always come to us and say, my CSA score is so high. How can you help me? Right? You got to help yourself
Mm-hmm.
because you have got to know that your what's going on with your operation, right? And that's when we provide coaching, because to be honest with you, people be like, can you help me dispute this violation? If there's not real supporting documentation, that violation is not going to be removed. From the moment that you receive that violation and you feel as if it's wrong, you have to start the process of disputing it immediately. You can't
Mm-hmm.
get back in the truck, drive, deliver the load, and then 2 weeks later say, I'm going to dispute this with the FMCSA. You have to start recording videos, taking pictures right there on the scene so that you will have a fighting chance to dispute it. Oftentimes, when people come to us to dispute those violations and try to help their safety scores get down, they don't have any supporting documentation or any videos, anything to show that that tire was properly inflated, or their windshield wipers were, in good condition, their lights were working. Because they get pissed off, they sign the citation, which is an acknowledgement of the violation, and then they drive off.
Do they have to sign it, or they can reject to sign that?
You, depending on if you own your own company.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what that comes down to. If you own your own company, then you don't have to sign that. You can receive it, but you don't have to sign it. Sign it, especially if you don't agree with it. Now, that doesn't mean that violation is not going to go on your safety score. That just means that you do not accept what is being said, right?
Right.
So that's just like, if you're speeding in your personal vehicle and the officer gives you the ticket, he still clock you going over the speed. You're just saying, I'm not signing this certification statement,
Right.
right? And so it's the same thing. So that speeding ticket is still gonna go to the court. It's still gonna go on your driver's license, but you may have a better chance of fighting it because you didn't sign off and say that you certify that and you agree to what is being reported.
Right. And you're saying after 2 years, the safety score automatically, like this, the violation automatically comes off, or like, and your score goes down. You saying 2 years?
Correct. Correct. So if you receive a roadside inspection in May of 2023 and you were placed out of service, or an out of service violation was found, then in May of 2025, that particular roadside inspection is going to fall off. But here's the thing, just because a roadside inspection falls off doesn't mean that it's going to increase your safety score.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's a good roadside inspection, one of those roadside inspections that you pass, that was helping to balance out the bad roadside inspections, your safety score is actually going to go up higher when that good one fall off. Does that make sense?
So the good ones fall off too.
Absolutely. And see, that's the
Man.
thing. It's like the good ones, any roadside inspection after 24 months is going to disappear. So the good ones are going to disappear along with the bad ones. And so sometimes our clients, they be like, hey, my safety score went up. What happened? Because we check them monthly, we always send them a breakdown of what is going on. Hey, this right here is about to fall off, but it was a good one. And because you have three bad ones left, your safety score is going to go up.
So that means they need to get another good one.
That means they need to get another good one, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and put this out there, because a lot of people say, well, you can just go to the DOT and ask them to inspect your vehicle. That is not how that works. That
Right.
is not.
They stopped that, right? Like, because of that trucking company kept sending that same truck throughout many way stations, I heard.
You cannot request a DOT inspection. Now,
Mm-hmm.
once upon a time, when we're talking about the OG days when my dad was out here,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. But now you can't do it. It has to be random, because it's like anything else. It's if it's an inspection and it's supposed to be a surprise, right? They want to catch you unprepared,
Right.
right? And so if you know everything is good on the truck, everybody would just go and be like, hey, give me an inspection, give me an inspection, give me an inspection, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there's no way, and that doesn't really help, the trucking industry, the FMCSA and DOT know who's really operating unsafe if everybody can just walk up in there with their good truck and get a good inspection.
Mm. Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you too, are those do that does that data queue thing really work? Like to fight a violation? Like have you had any experience with that?
Yeah, we have not been successful in being able to get any disputes passed through data queue. And here's why. It goes back to what I've said before, the lack of supporting documentation. You
Mm-hmm.
have to start that data queue process immediately, which means that I have to start gathering my evidence immediately. Once they leave the scene of the inspection, it kind of, it's not even kind of, it reduces their chances of getting that dispute removed, because at that point you've left the scene of the crime, basically, right? So the evidence is tampered,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so they can say, well, the inspection happened at 1 o'clock, but the video that you recorded is from 3 days later at 5 o'clock. So you could have had time to fix that light that you got that violation from.
Right.
But if you stay there on the scene at that time, and even if you choose to record the conversation that you're having with the officer, and you have to start that process immediately. And so a lot of these data queues, they're not getting approved, and these violations are sticking. And now they've even made it where it's even crazier, where the review, when you do that, the review, when you submit a data queue, it has to go to the officer. And then
Hmm.
the officer has to respond. And now they're going to respond, and they're going to have their paperwork. And then it comes back and they look at it, and then they make the decision off of what you said and off of what they said. And majority of the time, the officer has all of the documentation and supporting documentation, right? And then they're going to send it back to you, and then you can appeal it and do it again. But when you appeal it, guess what happened? It goes right back to that same officer. So guess what he's going to say? The same thing that he said before. And now your appeal got denied.
Right, right. Yeah, because I
So
can
now,
imagine, a driver just getting upset and just trying to, fight it just to fight it while being in the wrong.
absolutely. And then, so what they did do was put into place that the appeal will be reviewed by a different officer now, right? So they did work on that part, because people was like, what's the point of doing the appeal if it goes to the same person, right? And so that's like, I like to tell people, that's like if you ask your mom, can you go and do something, and she tell you no, and then you go back and ask your mom again, she gonna tell you no again,
Right.
right? But if you go to your dad that second time, he may be like, go ahead and do it, son, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they changed it because they realized, like, well, that's not fair, because the same person is reviewing it. So they are trying to make some type of, changes to give the carrier a fighting chance, but the carriers have to understand from the beginning to take action immediately.
Right. Another thing I wanted to ask you too, that I see that you a service that you also provide is the drug testing. So I wanted to know, like, what's the best way owner operators or small fleet carriers should go about drug testing their drivers, and what type of drug test is good, what is unfair? Because I'm even hearing like the hair follicle is a bit unfair. They're trying to fight that one out because it could go back to 90 days or a year, or I'm even hearing sometimes even more than a year. So someone who quit smoking weed for like 90 days or so, and is trying to change their life over, their hair follicle might, get them knocked. So what you think about that?
And so when it comes to drug testing, it's always the preference of the carrier, right? What type of collection they want to get. So if they
Mhm.
want a urine collection or specimen, if they want oral, where they're swabbing the person, or if they want hair follicle testing, that is always the discretion of the carrier. That is not something that is mandated by the FMCSA or the United States Department of Transportation. That is a preference of the carrier. So what that means is that when people are applying for these jobs, they need to ask those questions. What type of drug test do you guys actually, take? What type of specimen do you take? Because those are questions drivers need to know, because you go in there, you apply for it, you think you're about to pee in a cup, and they come out with scissors and clip your beard, right?
Mhm.
But that comes down to the carrier, what type of test they want to issue. Now, when it comes to what they should be doing, 90% of these trucking companies, small carriers, they are just doing urine samples, right? If you pee in this cup and it comes back good, they're gonna hand you those keys and you're gonna be good to roll. It's the
Mhm.
bigger companies who they have a bigger risk, right, by hiring drivers who are under the influence, because they have multiple trucks, multiple terminals, things of that nature. It's a bigger risk for them. Those are the ones who are typically doing your more severe collections, like the oral or the hair follicle testing. And so again, it just comes down to the carrier and how they are trying to eliminate risk as much as possible. But a lot of drivers, as you know, because of the clearinghouse, have been prohibited for either refusing a test or failing a test. And I've run across a lot of girls and guys who they haven't even failed a test. They just didn't know by them leaving out of the building that that was considered a refusal, right? They had to go and move their truck and stuff because they parked somewhere, and now somebody's coming telling them they got to move their truck. And because they left without notifying somebody, now they're prohibited in the clearinghouse, right?
See,
And
that's what I
so
don't. That's what I don't like about that thing. It's like real tricky. It could get you jammed up.
it's real tricky. And so as a, and I like to give a little leniency as a federal collector myself. I'm not going to go against the rules, but also being a driver, I understand, hey, if this guy got to run out there to move his truck, to me it'll be easy for me to just send a staff member out there to observe him, what he's doing, to make sure that he's not grabbing anything that he can tamper with his specimen with, right?
Hmm.
Because that's really what they're looking for. Is they're saying, hey, you left because you was getting ready to go do something you weren't supposed to be doing.
Hmm. And what I've been speaking to some drivers, and I've been gathering some information, and then I see how like some mega trucking companies like go about their business and their practices, and some of it is unethical, and there's a lot of miscommunication. So what me and someone else said was like, yo, before we even like, and this is for company drivers, before you even apply to like a mega company job, I would suggest that you do a private DOT drug testing prior to your pre-employment. So God forbid if there's any miscommunication or unethical practices, you have paper that to prove a official drug test from a certified DOT lab that you were clean at this time of pre-employment, because so some of these companies can't be trusted. That's how I look at it. What do you think?
Yeah, there is definitely always room for error when it comes to drug testing and samples and things like that getting mixed up with somebody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, it's a human who's there. And so if you got five people coming in and this is a new testing facility that collects your collection site, especially when you got people, I'm throwing a little shade out here, who is teaching people how to do these collections, but they're not properly training them. So you
Mm-hmm.
walking into this facility thinking that this is a testing site that's been up and established. You don't even know that you their first person ever in here, right? So now they
Right.
beta testing with your urine sample, and maybe she don't do something right, or she mislabel it, or something. So there's always room for error. I do like that you make that suggestion to go ahead and get your own test results. Here's something that a lot of drivers don't know: if you've been drug tested by and have a DOT approved drug test before you apply for that company, as long as it's within 30 days of you applying and signing up for that company, you don't even have to get drug tested again. You can submit that test result to them and say, hey, I just completed a test, a DOT approved drug test. I can provide you with my test results.
Really? Because I didn't know that, because from my research, I was, say if I'm going to look for a job like next Monday, I would do it this Monday, and I would do my own hair follicle, urine, the whole 5 panel plus the hair follicle, have all my 3 forms to show the employer, to say, hey, I'm clean before pre-employment, even though if you want me to take another one, I don't have a problem, but just to make sure that everything is on the up and up and there's no misunderstanding. So I want to ask you a question. If I have that and God forbid like they make a mistake, will my drug test cover me?
Yeah, because it will be within that same window. Because if you use, well, let me see, I'm trying to think about it. So if you're taking a test on Monday, and then this Monday, and then the following Monday they want you to take another drug test, and the drug test that they give you, you fail, no, it won't hold. Because between Monday when you went to take the test and
Mm-hmm.
between the Monday when they sent you, you could have partaken in drugs that week. You get what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So when you were tested on your own, it was tested for use prior to anything in your past prior to that Monday, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they testing you, they're finna test you for, it's a new test. You get what I'm saying? And so you could have taken drugs between that week, between or been around and had, whatever you want to do, abuse, drug abuse during that time,
Right.
right? So your test won't cover you because there's a window in between. Now, if you went and got tested the same day
Mm-hmm.
that they tested you, you say, hey, I'm going to do you guys test, but I'm going to also do my own test. I'm going to pay for my own test the same day. Now there's no window of, well, maybe well, you could have got high during the week that, during those 7 days when you weren't working for anybody. That's why you failed our test. But if I get tested on the same day with my own test results, then that's different, right? They can't really debate that, because why did I fail your drug test but I passed mine?
Oh, so it's probably better to do it the same day.
Correct. Do it the same day because there's no window between when you were tested for yourself and when they tested you.
So not even a day before. A day before would be too much. It has to be the same day.
A day before would be too much because once you provide that urine sample, it's a clean sample. It goes
Hmm.
off to the lab. Then you can leave and go hang out with your friends, smoke weed that evening, and then get up and go take a drug test the next day. I mean, you'll be dumb to do it, but you could do that, right?
Right.
And that's what they will present as evidence. Hey, well, he just got high when he got done taking his first test. That's
Hmm.
why he failed. There's a window between when you took that first test and when you took their test, right? A window of opportunity, a window to get high, a window to use drugs, and they can say that's why he failed our test because you get what I'm saying.
Right. Right. He had that
He had that
time.
opportunity, that time, correct.
Hmm. So, but I don't know if you do it the same day. I don't think that you'll get the results the same day. Doesn't it take a
You
little time?
Right. You don't get the results the same day, but what you can, depending on what type of test you're doing, there is a such thing as rapid testing, right? So you
Hmm.
can do a rapid test and you get the results the same day, but you need to make sure that it is a DOT approved rapid test,
Right.
right? So what that is like basically peeing in a cup that has a label on the side that is when you shake it or you put something in there, it's going to tell if you are clean or not. It's like a test that you would use to drug test your kids if you're thinking that they're, getting
Right.
high at school or something. It's a rapid test. But you can do a rapid test the same day so that you can have your test results right then and you would know, well, I tested clean, right? And then just making sure it's a DOT approved rapid test.
Right.
But when it comes, and then now you can get their test results sent off to the lab, and it's like, okay, I got my specimen and my results, and then theirs and their results, and you can compare them if there's any error to protect yourself. But I'm gonna be honest with you, it's a few cases where people actually do get screwed over, or there's a mistake that is being made. They have the option to retest the specimen.
Hmm.
And a lot of people don't know that. You can request for them to test your second sample because when we take the urine in the cup, they have to. That's why that cup has a marker on there of how much that we need because we pour 20 milliliters into one test sample and then 30 into the other, right?
Hmm.
And so one is used as the primary testing, and then if something happens and they want to appeal it, the second sample is stored and saved for it to be tested again. Yeah, so most of the time when you're doing a drug test or drug screening, there's going to be two samples. And so I always advise people if you feel like something was wrong in that first one, go ahead and ask the lab to retest your second sample, and then you may find something different with the second sample.
Okay, yeah, because the clearinghouse thing is like real sensitive and tricky. So I always want to like give drivers like something to protect themselves. So because some of these mega companies they're getting a bad rap, and they're just not 100% professional. They're so big, so large, so a lot is going on. Stuff can be miscommunicated. So I always put that out there, like. But I'm glad I asked you because you said do it the same day. I was thinking as long as I do it like 3 or 5 days before, I was good. But then you mentioned they can use that against you, those open windows days prior against you. So doing a rapid test the same day, I think it would be good too.
Yeah, so now you're gonna go update your Instagram post, right?
Yes, cause I was saying like, yo, do it like a couple of days before, but then you gave me some good info. Like they'll use that against you. So yeah, the rapid test, and as long as it's DOT certified lab, like Concentra or Quest Diagnostic. I know those are they do DOT testing. I don't know, different states might have different names, but in New York they have Concentra and Quest Diagnostic. So those are like the two big ones out here.
Yeah, those are those Quest is an actual lab. Concentra is a testing site, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
the specimen has to go from a testing site to a lab and then be processed, and then the results are sent back to the testing site, where the urine sample or the drug sample was collected, right? And so yeah, like you said, as long as it is a DOT approved rapid test, then they'll be good to go, right? They'll have that.
Okay. And another question, what makes like how is that random pick like orchestrated? Like what's the procedure for the random pick? Because I'm from what I researched, they have to do it was like 50% for other drugs and then like 10% for alcohol. And then like what makes them do like random picking, like how they choose the driver?
So in most cases, most people think that random selections have to be computerized. In most cases, they are computer generated. What happens is that we provide what's called a roster. And so every time somebody enrolls into our drug and alcohol program and they're a part of our random selections, for our company, we do them every quarter versus doing one every month, right? So we have all of our carriers, all of their drivers inside of a random pool, and then we send it over to our partners at Verify First, and they put all those drivers' information into a system, and then that system randomly select who should be taking that test, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not always the case. There are times where a random selection could be just dropping out those names in a hat and pulling it out. That's still considered random, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a percentage of drivers that have to be randomly selected from the drug pool, right, in order to meet the FMCSA requirements. And it's always good that carriers are a part of, or drivers are a part of, a large drug pool versus a small one, because it's just like if we was, we did raffle tickets growing up, right? So if you
Mm-hmm.
buy a lot of raffle tickets, guess what? You got more chances of being selected because your name is in the box more, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing when it comes to the random selections. You want to try to be a part of a drug and alcohol consortium that has a random pool that is big. So your name isn't coming up every 3 months, right? Your name is
Right.
not coming up every 6 months because there's 100 other drivers in there with you. But if you in there with 9 other drivers, then at least 2 or 3 times a year you're going to be selected, because it's not that many of you guys that they can choose from every quarter or every month.
Right. And if an owner operator or a fleet owner doesn't have it's not signed up with a consortium, I think they give them what, like 2 days to go take the test versus if they are signed up with a consortium, they have 30 days. Is that correct?
For it depends on what type of test that they are taking. So if you are taking a pre-employment test, you can have anywhere between 7 to 10 days. That's really set by the consortium and the company, the trucking company. But
Mm-hmm.
if it's something that's like a post-accident or reasonable suspicion, there are windows in which those tests have to be conducted, right? Post accident, there's a window. Reasonable suspicion is me saying, hey, I think my driver, John, is under the influence. I'm going to go ahead and test him right now, right? That has to be done immediately. So the testing time, or the time that they have to complete the drug screening, is dependent on what's the purpose of the drug test. If it's pre-employment or if it's random, randoms all depend on, it can be 2 days, 7 days. It's set by the consortium, right?
Mm-hmm.
For us, we give our guys 7 days to complete their random.
Okay. And that's the
Yeah.
owner
So
operator. He gets 7 days.
whether it's the
Okay.
owner operator or if it's the company driver, he gets 7 days.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
And so those are the flexibilities, and that's why it's important that people are not just signing up for companies. And we got to put some responsibilities on the drivers and the carriers when it comes to what's happening with the FMCSA clearinghouse, and some of the drivers being prohibited and being mistaken, or being, put in these positions. The reality is, enough people are not educated about the drug testing process. So when they walk out, they don't know that's a test refusal until it happens. So drivers as well as carriers have to do a better job of getting educated about what they are partaking in, instead of just going and doing things, because that's how you find yourself in these type of situations. But if you go in there and you know how this supposed to go, then you're increasing your chances of not having any issues. But if
Right.
you just going in there, scraggling in there, trying to get it done real quickly, not paying attention because you got the dispatcher calling, this person calling, you not paying attention of what you're doing, then a mistake happens and you don't even know that it's occurring.
Right. Now, for the drivers who completed their SAP program, I know a lot of them complain that it's hard to get a job. So what I was suggesting that I want to know if it's true or not from you, like a driver who completed their SAP program, can they be 1099? Will it be easier for them to get work as a 1099? Will it be easier for them to get work as a Class B driver? Or could they open up their own trucking company, like, or maybe do escorting for like heavy loads? Like, are those good options for someone who completed the SAP program trying to get back into work?
The best option for a SAP driver is to go and partner with a small trucking company, because that's the supply and demand. Small trucking companies like mom and pop shops, right?
Hmm.
Like my dad, like the carriers that we work with, they need drivers and they need
Hmm.
them bad, right? But because the big companies, the mega carriers, are not going to take those drivers, even though they've completed the return to duty process, they're not going to take those drivers because that is still a risk for them. There's a potential that, because the reality is, if somebody use drugs, they most likely going to use them again, right? And so
Hmm.
that mega carrier don't want to take that risk, because again, they got hundreds of trucks attached to their company. So if this driver go out there and get in a bad accident and hurt somebody because of drug use, it blows back harder on them. But the smaller trucking companies, they are desperate for drivers. They need them, and it's a good partnership, because the big companies don't want the drivers. The small companies need the drivers,
Right.
right? And so it's a good way for them to partner together, because hey, man, I can get the job done. You know what I'm saying? And so it makes it a little bit more personal too, because I can explain to him that, hey, my mom passed and I was going through depression. And so I ended up taking these drugs and to deal with that. You know what I'm saying? And a small carrier can relate to that compared to somebody who is just HR in a mega carrier. They not gonna really feel that, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? And so but everything that you listed are great opportunities for people, but the best thing is for them to connect with a small carrier to get their way back into the industry. The reality is that they do not, your return to duty status is not on your MVR, right? So I hear drivers say, oh, they wouldn't hire me because they said insurance said, because I was in the clearinghouse or prohibited in the clearinghouse, that they couldn't hire me or whatever. Your insurance companies can't discriminate like that and say that,
Hmm.
right? Insurance companies are looking at motor vehicle reports of drivers. They're not doing clearinghouse searches on drivers, right?
Mm.
No, that's a carrier who has decided that they don't want to hire you because they've seen that you have been prohibited. Now, if you have a bad driving record and your ass is prohibited,
Yeah.
of course you're not going to get a job, right?
Yeah.
But I hear a lot of reasons why people be like they can't find a job after they completed the return to duty process. And I will advise those drivers to stop going after the mega carriers and go after small trucking companies who are looking to give drivers second chances.
So how is the insurance dealing with the smaller trucking companies when it comes to the SAP drivers? Because you just told me something I didn't know. I didn't know that they don't look at the drug use, or they judge them on the I thought they look at that and, he got knocked for smoking weed. Because most of the SAP drivers, I think it was, if I watched the video the other day, I think it's over 50% of them is in the SAP program for weed.
Absolutely, marijuana use, because it's legal in a lot of states.
Hmm.
Drivers forget that it's not legal for them,
Right.
right? And so they partake in it and forget that, dang, you know what? I got this CDL, I can't do that. But you were asking, I'm sorry, repeat your question. You said, how is it
Like
for,
the
oh, with
the
the
insurance
insurance?
companies, like, 'cause some of these insurance companies, they really got the trucking business in a chokehold. They're making all the demands, and that's why I guess some mega companies have their own insurance, but the ones who don't, like I don't know about Progressive. Geico is doing trucking insurance now. Before, like last year, they weren't, not to my knowledge, but I just found out this year Geico was doing trucking insurance, and then a lot of them are just like predatory, and they want cameras watching you. Like, what's your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, there again, when a insurance company pulls a driver record, they are seeing the motor vehicle report. The
Mm-hmm.
motor vehicle report does not have anything about drug and alcohol use at all,
Okay.
right? At all. The only time it's going to show something is if that person has been involved in an accident or has had a moving violation, traffic violation, due to being under the influence of drug and alcohol, right? So if they actually got arrested for a DUI, that would show up, right? Or being under the influence, right? That would show up. But if it's just a clearinghouse violation from a failed test, your clearinghouse does not connect to your driver's license to the point where it goes on your MVR. Now, even though they are downgrading licenses because of people not completing the return to duty process, when they do complete their process and they go and apply for that license, again, it's not showing on their motor vehicle report that they lost their license due to clearinghouse violation. Your clearinghouse record is private. No one can
Okay.
access your clearinghouse record without the driver's consent,
Okay.
right? So nobody can see that without the driver giving it. Literally sends them a request that says LLG is attempting to pull your records. Hey, can they proceed, right, to view it?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Okay.
without the driver agreeing to that, then that information doesn't get. That's why I said a lot of the carriers are saying the insurance company denied the driver, because it's easier to say the insurance company denied you than it is for them to tell them that, hey, we don't want to hire you because of you are a SAP driver.
Oh, okay, okay. So I'm glad I got some knowledge on that. I noticed you offer a lot of services from your company. So I would like you to, just get into that for the listeners right now, because you're like more than a compliance company. You do a lot. LLG does a lot. So you can just explain to the listeners like some of the services that you provide.
Oh, absolutely. So we are known for doing trucking compliance. However, we are also a educational resource for not only trucking companies but also service providers in the trucking industry. And so we have a couple of companies that are up under our belt, LLG. Then we have EPA Financial Solutions, where we are helping. Not only carriers but other business owners build their business credit, get business funding, understand how to capitalize off of other people's money, right? Loans and things of that nature. And so, in addition to that, what we're currently in the process of launching is helping service providers to streamline their businesses and get more organized, whether it's a dispatcher or drug and alcohol consortium, compliance person, freight broker. We're helping them to streamline their process in their organizations and businesses by automating their business for them, right? Having systems and processes in places, client portals and things of that nature. Because a lot of the times what I see, and this is just me being honest, is people teach the dispatching, they teach the compliance. No, they don't. I do that, but they try to teach the compliance, right?
Right, right. Now
They
you're the
teach
only
they
one out here. That's why I had to get you on the show, because I don't see no one on YouTube, nothing about compliance. It's like, to me, it's like you're the only compliance out there for trucking, even though there might be more, but you don't see them on the internet about nothing, like delivering info. You give a lot of free information, because even with my dispatching, I'll like include some compliance, and all of my services I got from you, just from your free game.
Yeah, and so we're building that software and those systems to help people A lot of people taught people how to dispatch. They didn't teach them how to run a dispatch business. They
Hmm.
taught people how to do drug testing, but they didn't teach them how to run a drug testing business. And when I say how to run it, I mean the day-to-day operation, the marketing, how to price those services, how to have the right phone lines, how to properly store documents and keep records, project management, task management, right? So they said, hey, this is how you find a load, this is how you negotiate it, right? This is how you file it if the application, but they're not showing after the application is filed or before it's filed what information you need to get, how long you need to retain the records, and how to attract new clients, or how to create programs using your existing clients where you have recurring income, right? And so now I'm transitioning into that side of the business because I have all of these students who have the information on how to render the services, but they don't know how to run the business. And so now I am pushing towards helping people to actually launch their businesses in the trucking industry, not just trucking companies, so that I can partner people together. This has always been bigger than me. There's only so many clients that I need with LLG to take care of me and my household, right? So the
Hmm.
overflow, I want to be able to give those people, those clients, to my students or other service providers that I know are going to operate on the same level of intelligence and integrity as we do, and they're going to have the professionalism and the systems and stuff in place to take care of those people when we give them to them.
Wow, you are truly blessed, Lateasha. I mean, like, damn, girl, like, I ain't see nobody like you on the internet. Like, for real, for real. Like, I'm just glad I was able to get this information from you right now.
Absolutely, I definitely appreciate it.
And one final thing. So, what advice would you give to a owner operator, mainly like a owner operator or maybe even a company driver, like just to stay compliant apart from signing up with LLG, just to stay compliant in the industry right now with do's and don'ts, just to be successful? Like one a small piece of advice.
You got to be connected to a good source, right? And so, although I believe I'm one of the best sources out here, you have to be plugged in. You know what I'm saying? You got to be connected to people who, when you're not listening to the news and the things that's going on, there's somebody who is and can bring that information back to you, right? It's who you are listening to and who you're connected to is the most important thing, not just when it comes to compliance, but when it comes to growing and scaling your business. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
I would tell people to get plugged in with good people. Don't be, what I like to say, don't be influenced, be informed, right?
Right.
Because you can get influenced by somebody just because they look good, they talk right, right?
Hmm.
But you need to be informed about what is really going on. And so I will also say, stack your money, whether it is for safety violation tickets that you're gonna get in citations,
Hmm.
but I would say have capital. Use your money for you. You should not, and this gonna probably cause some issues, but you should not be driving a truck um more than 5 years for your own trucking company. You should not.
Mm. Right, right.
By year five, you should have been scaled that business or use that trucking company to get into something else.
Hmm.
Because trucking is not a long term thing for a driver. Should not be something that drivers are inspiring to retire from. Right. When I look at my dad, love him to death. My dad is a true truck driver. He doesn't want to stop. Right. And he can do that. Right. He will probably drive a truck to the gates of heaven. I'm pretty sure he will. Right.
Right.
But when I look at it, he's passionate. That is truly what he loves to do because he ministers while he's out too.
Oh,
But
okay.
for our generation, we should be using this as stepping stones to something else. So
Right.
I would tell them, make your money and invest your money back into your business to either automate that business and to scale that business so you can get out of that truck and now you can be the person really running your operation and stuff. And if you don't desire to grow your fleet, that's perfectly fine. Stack your money, get you some business credit, get your hands on some business funding. Now go and do something else with that money that you just made out of trucking, because this is not a long term. It shouldn't be, I'm gonna drive the truck for the rest of my life. I got an LLC, I got my own trucking company, and you in that seat every day. Absolutely
You done
not.
struck a nerve, Lateisha, because I know some of them who've been driving for 10, 15 years. I be seeing like the Instagram videos, the guys at the truck stop walking up to him, be like, how long you been a truck driver? 15 years. What company you work for? Such and such. I make $1,800 a week. And I'm like, damn, working for
Mm-mm.
15 years, making $1,800 a week. So you right on that, like you said, 5 years.
5 years. By year three, I already got business credit. I got lines of credit. I got funding opportunities. I got all of that stuff. And I got my business operation running smoothly. So if I choose to get out of the truck on year five, I'm secured. Or if I choose to put somebody else in that truck, I can now put them in there, pay them. The operation is good to go. And now I can go and do and possibly start another business.
Hmm.
Trucking is not the success rate for trucking is not high.
Right,
So when you get in, you make your money, you get out. You know what I'm
right.
saying?
Hmm.
Like that's the way that dope boys and stuff you move. I'm gonna make this link and I'm gonna dip. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? That's
right,
what they
right,
always
right.
trying to do because they know that the end game. I mean, the when it comes to what their options are and how this can end, it ain't gonna be good. So that's the same thing with trucking. You got to
Right.
get in, make your money, get out, and invest that money into something else and use it as a stepping stone.
Right. Latisha, I appreciate you so much. We definitely got to chop it up again in the future. Hopefully next time your sister can jump on too. And your business is very much needed out here. And I appreciate your time, Latisha.
Absolutely. I appreciate the invitation. And as always, you guys know that y'all can stay connected with us and you know how to connect with me if needed and stuff as well. I appreciate you taking time out and reaching out and much success to you and what you're doing with your podcast.
Thank you so much. So I talk to you soon. Stay safe, okay?
You too, darling. Bye bye.
All right. Thanks.